Hi, everybody. Welcome along to Percussion Discussion, episode 38. Hope you're all well and happy out there. Please check out our social media. You can find us on Facebook, on Instagram, Twitter, and of course, our YouTube channel. Please give us a subscribe. This way you won't miss any of the episodes we've already done or any of the amazing interviews we have coming up for you. And the great news is you can find our interviews on podcast form on Apple Podcasts and Spotify as well. So if you search North Wales Drum Promotions, you'll be able to find them and listen on the go whenever suits you. On to today's guest. We are firmly back in the Legends Lounge again. An iconic British rock drummer, rock/metal drummer, one of the biggest characters in the business, as well as one of the finest drummers without question. He's been powering the incredible Iron Maiden since 1982. It gives me incredible pleasure to welcome Mr. Nicko McBrain.
My pleasure, mate. Nice to meet you, Matt. And
likewise.
Cracking. Yeah. It's nice to do stuff like this. I mean, we've all been locked down going crazy, you know.
Yeah.
Actually, you know, I spoke to my boss the other day and he just, you know, he said, you can't get any crazier than you already are. Well, that's not true. So,
well, you know,
yeah, nice to speak to you, Matt. Yeah,
likewise. Well, it's been a weird 12 months for everybody. And what have you been up to? Have you managed to keep busy? Because I know you've got a few things kind of going aside from music as well. Have you managed to keep stuff going and keep busy or relaxing?
Yeah. Obviously, once it all got shut down a year ago, pretty much close to a year ago now, my wife and I, we closed our house down in February.
Mm-hmm.
So it's been a little longer than a year for us. We just, you know, once excuse me, let me turn that off. That's Keith Keogh.
Oh, there you go, is it? Say hello.
I will do. We're supposed to do a Zoom meet later today. We were supposed to do one the other day. Anyway, so yeah, we closed down. Obviously, all the restaurants and stuff. So my restaurant was closed. So the first 3 or 4 months, you know, look, to be honest with you, when I come off of the tour, I've been kind of lived the nomadic life. You know, I'll go out and play a few rounds of golf and oh gosh, so now the alarm's gone off. It's all happening in the McBrain room. Yeah, you know, and so it's usually 2 or 3 months where I just kick back and don't really do a thing. You know, a bit of golf here and there.
Yeah,
and it's been pretty much like that. It's that extended sabbatical, if you like.
Sure.
But it's got to the stage where it's really just a drag, as it is for everybody. But from the restaurant standpoint, that kind of kept me busy. What we did was we redecorated while we were closed down. I took all the tables out. My wife arranged through some friends of ours to refinish the tables. We put a light rock and roll logo in it, and they're nicely done now. So we spruced the place up. It did need it after 10, 11 years. Yeah. So that kind of kept us a bit busy. And my wife's actually just bringing me a cup of tar.
Beautiful.
I made a cup of tea 10 minutes ago. It's been sitting in the pot.
No, you didn't. You didn't.
It was. Oh, I didn't put the tea in the pot. Oh, okay.
I've done it.
There's another thing that goes. That's another thing that's going on. He's like, what did I just say? You know. So that kept us busy.
Sure.
They opened up over here in Florida at the end of May time last year. So we kept it shut down till the end of the first week of June, just because I thought, well, I'll leave it a few more weeks, just because, you know, and. So we opened that. We opened the restaurant. The golf courses for private membership golf courses were open in June, July. So I started to go out and play golf, and me and the missus would go out. And the nice thing about that was there was no one out on the golf course because there weren't a lot of members that were down in Florida in the summer. 9 times out of 10, the Florida summer people go off up north to the cooler weather, to the cooler summers. So we would go out and take a picnic. This is great. No word of a lie. We play 9 holes. We get to the 9th hole and we go around the back of the green and we get our little picnic out. And we'd sit there and have a sandwich or two and a natter and talk about the weather and whatever popped up.
Sounds about perfect, that, doesn't it?
Yeah, and then we go off and finish a round. So that was really what we did for like a good 4 or 5 months. And then things started to open up down here, and it's been pretty crazy for the last 3 or 4 months. All the vaccination, all the good work that everybody. I mean, I know England, you guys have been shut down, and I think you still are until the end of this month.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
We're at the end of the month, but in April, and things are supposed to start coming back in May, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, that's right.
So it's hard because their idea is to get the drop on the vaccinations and try and keep the infecting people down to a minimum.
Sure.
Well, unfortunately, they kind of they're on their third wave over here because all the spring breakers have come down the last 3 weeks, and they're party wild. I mean, you can't blame in a way when you got like you're an 18-year-old going on 24, right? It's like, okay, first of all, you feel like you're untouchable. We know this disease, it ain't, it affects everybody, but it's just a shame because everybody that's doing their bit, staying kind of away and doing the social distancing malarkey, all of a sudden we got this pandemic surge again. So really we've been watching that like everybody else.
Sure.
I have done a couple of little projects. I did a track for a guy called Sean McKee and John Anderson.
Oh, right. Okay.
I was thrilled to be asked a year ago. A friend of mine, a lass called Gina Fernano, a very, very dear friend of mine, emailed me and said, look, are you interested in doing this track? There's a whole bunch of different Jordan Rudess from Dream Theater on keyboards. Sean played guitar and bass. We have, he's got so many people singing chorus backup vocals. It's a 10-piece epic. It's called Everyone Wins. Okay. And it's about this pandemic and how everybody's done their bit. And at the end of the day, we're all supposed to win, right?
Yeah.
It's a really great project. So I recorded that back in April last year. I did a track on Adrian's new record, Smith Kotzen album, and called Solar Fire. And I did that around about the same time. Yeah. And I did a couple of 1-minute pieces of music for Jen Magura, who's a guitar player with Evanescence. Right. And she did this like YouTube thing. I haven't seen anything on YouTube from her for a while. Maybe it's because I haven't really been sort of searching it. But they were like 1-minute pieces of music. And, and it was great. It was good fun. Yeah. So I kind of kept my hand in there. And then, really, been in touch with the guys in the band. I spoke to Bruce a couple of months ago, Steve yesterday, Steve today. We all keep in touch. Although we go on the road and we live with one another for 4 or 5 months. When we don't see one another, we don't like getting each other's pockets by phoning everybody, every 5 minutes. Sure. So it's been nice to keep in touch with and Rod and Andy, our managers, and keeping in touch with family. It's been tough.
Yeah. So it's what you make it, isn't it? You've got to get on with it. We're all in the same boat. Just keep smiling, get on.
Yeah, that's it. And the one good thing I praise God for every day is waking me up 6 foot above ground instead of 6 foot below it.
Yeah, lots of said for that.
And of course, I've had I've been vaccinated. I've had both of my vaccinations, and I'm 5 weeks down the line from the second one. So I'm not like the teenagers 18 years to 25 where I'm untouchable. But it does make you feel better that that even if you do get it, because it doesn't stop you from getting the disease, this shit. But it just helps you if you do get it. It ain't gonna maybe kill you.
yeah, which is a bonus, isn't it? Let's be honest.
Without a doubt. Plus, and the other thing is, I'm just working on my little drum room. Cool. I noticed you've got like your little room there. That's your man cave, probably.
Yes.
Bugger off to your man cave. Go on, the NAMM show was the last time I saw all the guys from BDC.
Yeah.
And we had Keith had made me a beautiful drum set called the Icarus series drum kit, which we showed that off at the BDC, and the 2 snare drums he built for me, the Icarus and the Talisman snare.
Yeah.
And so very dear friend of ours, Shane from Portsmouth Drum Centre, bought the stand. So all the gear went back to New Hampshire.
Sure.
So anyway, moving forward, Keith was going to build me another kit, identical kit, right,
sure.
for me to put in my studio and practice with and get used to. Well, I only got it. This particular drum set was the kit that Keith had sold to Shane.
Oh, right. Okay. Yeah.
So he did a deal with Shane to send it to me, and then he's going to replace that kit.
Yeah.
Like, you know, when all this pandemic, and because the problem we're finding, as probably virtually everybody in manufacturing around the world, is stuff from Taiwan, China, and places like that, where we get the hardware built. It's hard to get it from A to B. Plus, the expense of it has gone up like 300 or 400%, which is acceptable. You know, it's not really something that you want to hear, but you know, unfortunately, if you can get a container on a ship, hopefully it ain't going down the Suez Canal. But you know, the problems have been getting the product. The product's been made, you know. So here's the thing: we you know, Keith went into the factory and reshaped the whole process on the production line, because it was sort of staggered around in different areas. So he's actually reworked the factory while it's been closed.
Yeah,
completely revamped it all. Plus, we had quite a lot of orders come in. Oh, for crying out loud! So my phone keeps going. Look, my alarm's gone off. No, it's no. What's going on with that? Excuse me a minute. I'm going to turn that off. Anyway, so yeah, so it's twofold. The factory's been reworked, and it's given Keith an opportunity to realign everything. And I got my BDC Icarus kit, and I had to clean out my studio from a couple of other drum sets.
Sure.
That were in there, and I'm setting it up for Drum One TV.
Ah,
so
fantastic!
Boys and girls, and my wife she's got this little production company going, and we're going to do some drum related stuff, just music related in general. It's not all going to be all about drums and drumming. Sure. Primarily, it'll be me breaking down tracks that I've played on with Maiden, how the drum parts were created and the songwriting process, that sort of stuff. And I've got a couple of mates of mine who said they'll do it. So we're thinking of like an hour show, 45 minutes, maybe twice a month to start. And then when we go back out, and hopefully, please Lord, when all this kerfuffle stops and we get live bands out there again, we go back out on tour, then I can do it from the road. So it's going to be mobile, and the missus will do the production style of it. And so yeah, very excited about that.
It is exciting stuff, isn't it? You know, because I mean this with every respect. You know, at your stage of your career, you're at the pinnacle. You don't have to do any of this stuff. This is because you love it, isn't it? It's as simple as that.
Well, I still feel the same as I did when I was 12, 13 years old. You know, that vibe when you go into a drum shop and it's like in the candy store. Yeah. But instead of sucking on a sweet, it's like the candies, your drum sets, and all the pamphlets. I used to look at all the catalogs and collect them. Wish I could find them; they'd be worth a few bucks a day for people. But I still have that excitement when I look at new drums, look at old drums. I mean, I'm definitely a vintage drum lover, because it's what I grew up with.
Sure.
So I still love it, and not having played in over a year and a half with my band, I have really missed it, and wow, it's all very well sitting in your room playing your own, playing on your drum set, doing all your little bits and pieces, still keeping your hands working, but it certainly gets boring after maybe 10, 15 minutes. And there's only so many solos or so many things you can do on the kit, and even experimenting, which is what we always do, I think, as drummers when we put a solo together. I ad-lib my solos mostly, have little key points, so I'll do this here and do that there, but it's mainly comes as it feels. And, there's only so much you can do on your own in a room. But I've since I got my BDC kit set up and the room's like it's ready to go.
Sure.
I say that I've actually, Sean McKee the guy that wrote the song with John Anderson, came down and we did some filming for Netflix special that's going to be put together.
Sure.
I don't know when it's going to be released, but he came down, took some footage anyway. He has a company that he works with that do soundproofing. And you send them a schematic of the room, like a video, and they can work out from the dimensions what kind of soundproofing you want to do. So what I need to do is just bring the ambient sound down in the room because it's very live. When I design a parquet floor, I do have a glass door, which is a way in and out from outside the house. There's a way from it getting in from the house and whatever. So, you know, that's the only thing I've got to do now is because I put some carpets down there. I've got, my missus bought 2 very nice carpets. One of my drum sets on one of them.
Oh, nice.
She's got this thing a little bit too short in the length. It's supposed to be 8 feet and it's 7. So the stand's like the little foot on the stand. I don't want to put it down like in the middle of the stand because it's a boom stand, right?
Yeah,
and you can actually put the boom stand straight in. Nah, it don't look right. So... So I'll give her a bollocking for that. She took it pretty well, I must admit. So that's been it. You know, I go in and have a knock maybe 3 days a week. I'll go in and rattle around for half an hour and just keep my hands working, really.
Yeah, absolutely.
Obviously, the only thing there is that the stamina. You're not working those kind of stamina muscles that you would if you're doing a 2-hour show with a band. You know, you're sitting there for keeping your hands going, but you're not. I'm not racing. Oh, I shouldn't say that because I get told off for that when I play in a band. Like you're not pushing your body to that extreme where you're driving the band. I mean, it's totally different but sitting in a room on your own. And you can go through the drum parts of the songs and hear them in your head and whistle them or whatever, rocks your boat. And it's not the same as driving the guys. So there is that I do miss. So
I don't think there's any way you could ever replicate that energy apart from being on a stage doing it, really.
No, I agree with you, Matt. It's a totally different beast,
Yeah, absolutely. Now, there's one thing you mentioned before about the kid in the candy shop thing with the drum shop. Obviously, and I know your partners in Drum One in Manchester, and that's a great drum shop. Was that part of the reason for doing that, Nicko? Because it's a hell of a shop, isn't it? Let's be honest.
Yeah, well, it's weird because had I not spoken to Craig Buckley, my partner, and this we'll segue this into BDC in a bit after this story, if you like. Okay, Craig Buckley was the GM at Premier. He Ken Tonkin, who owns Premier, headhunted him, and Craig had his own audio company. And he worked with Bose for a long while. He's very street smart, street credibility with all the the art of the business deals and stuff. So anyway, Ken headhunted him around 2010 or around whatever that period, 10 years ago, and he became GM. So I got to know him very well, and he was a big fan of my Iron Maiden and myself.
Yeah, sure.
And so that we had this great friendship started through Premier. So moving on. Until we've been open now a couple of 3 years. About 4 years ago, he said, I've got a chance to acquire the Manchester Drum Centre. The guy's selling it. And I got, oh, really? Oh, that's nice. And we're chatting away. And through the conversation, he was telling me how much equipment was, you got with the deal and how much business turnover and this, that, and the other. Kind of went over my head a little bit. I'm going, yeah, okay. And I said, so he said, I'm going to go to the bank and get it. I said, how much are we going to spend on that then? And he went, and it was purely really a trip of the tongue, if you like.
Yeah, sure.
Because, as we were in business with Premier and Keith, and we were always coming up with ideas. It was, what are we going to do? How do we want to deal with this? How were we going to approach that? How we would add this partnership? And in fact, with Keith Keogh, we were like the Three Musketeers, you know, without the silly hats. Anyway, so he said, "Oh, do you want in on this then?" And I said, "Ooh," and something clicked in my mind to what it was like when I was a 12-year-old kid going into Berry's music shop in Green Lanes in Haringey.
Yeah.
And I thought, God, blimey, owning a drum shop, that's something I've not really ever thought about. It never crossed my mind until that time when he said, you want in then, you know? So we discussed doing a partnership, and that's how that started. And of course, when Craig, you know, obtained the shop, and then we started the plan of how we were going to present Nicko McBrain's Drum One, and sure. Obviously at that time I just moved in with Sonor. I've had my premise, so I had my Peisty legacy.
Yeah.
So it was. I said, well, we've got to have a Planet Peisty and a Sonosphere. You know, so now that's obviously changed. So we've got a new British Drum Company area. We still do Sonar.
Yeah, of course.
You know, it's not as profiled as it was prior.
Still great drums, regardless of whatever.
Without a doubt, they are. I mean, you know, it's a sad old story because basically when I left back in '92, I had 19 years with Sonar prior to changing to Premier.
Sure.
And in fact, Sonar was the first drum set I ever bought myself.
Right.
My mum and dad bought me my first kit, which I built up, and it was a 3-piece Broadway, John Gray Broadway kit.
Yeah.
And I ended up putting a floor tom, bunch of cymbals on it, you know. And then my first kit I ever bought was a Sonar, Teardrop, 1960. Well, I think they came out in '62 here about that time. And I bought my first drum kit when I was 14 years old. So that was 1966.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. Blimey.
Those teardrop kits were lovely.
About it, you're having a laugh. Anyway, so there was always that, you know, that first, that usually they say the first kit you buy is the one you always stay and cherish.
Yeah.
You know, but anyway, so that was you know, the business side of it when I left in '92 was pretty similar to all the reasons that I left in 2000 and when was that? 18,
yeah,
2019. So unfortunately, it was just one of those things. It's I haven't documented it because it's really not anyone else's business other than mine. And I've seen people say, "Oh, it's got to be for the money." Well, I never get money. I don't get paid to use the equipment. The only thing I get paid in is they give me the equipment. So
yeah, of course.
When I get a drum kit and I design it and build it with whoever, it becomes mine. It's not their property. Although business side, you know, they want to keep it because they don't have to pay tax on it or something like that. Some bullshit business that deal. But anyway, so no boys and girls. Contrary to belief, I do have licensing deals in place, as I had with Premier for the Spirit of Maiden kit, for instance.
Of course, yeah.
We were supposed to do, and we did it. We did replica kits of 4 of my touring drum sets. Primarily the Gimme Ed kit, which had the black and white Eddies hand painted on them.
Yeah.
So we did a bunch of those. So yes, those you get a residual royalty from. Every time they sell a kit, you know, the band makes a couple of grand and I make a couple, whatever it is. It's not that they pay me to work and use their equipment. It's never been like that. Never has, never will be. So anyway, our business side of things fell apart, and that was why I eventually left Sonar after 4 years of going back with them. And the primary reason, going from Drum One, let's just talk a little about. I mean, that is a stunning shop. I've got to be honest.
Incredible.
Every time I've been in there, I'm like, it's like I'm going into that shop when I was 12 years old. And usually, you know, there's all people in there like, Carl, can I have your autograph? Can I do it? Give us a 5 minutes. I've just got to pop upstairs and see what the guys at Ludwig have got up there, and the DW line and all this. And you know, people that aren't drummers don't get it.
No, of course not.
They just don't get it. You know, it's like a car freak. You know, you know, I can try and give people, say, do you like cars? You know, oh yeah, my Ferraris are my favorite. Well, that's what I'm like with drums. you've got this thing about motor cars. It's drums for me. That's my passion. Still have that.
Sure.
You know, but Manchester, you know, there we are. We're up in Manchester, and then Keith Keogh left Premier in around 2014, 2015. And that was all a bit of a problem. Hence my leaving Premier, because they decided they weren't going to make British drums anymore.
Mm.
It's a British drum company. Well, not the BDC company. Premier
Yes.
foremost, and it'll be 100 years next year that they've been making drums. Premier, the P badge, bam, boom. Yeah. And then Ken Tonkin, in his infinite wisdom, decided he didn't want to make drums in England anymore. So he basically let Keith and 6 other guys go. I think there were 6 or 7 that Keith had working with him. Plus, in the meantime, Craig had moved on. And but before that happened, Keith, myself, and Craig had designed a whole line of drums to bring into the Premier family, and it got dissed. I won't go into why, but we had a whole design drum set from a starter kit to a Nicko McBrain touring line kit of drums. Anyway, so when Keith left, he said, "I'm going to go and make drums on me out." I said, "Well, you are. You're a wood whisperer. You're the." I took this from Al Murray's little interview he did this morning on. I saw it on YouTube. Yeah. I'm very blessed that they put that up actually, because it was lovely. And he called Keith, which is, I've been trying to think of something to describe how Keith is, to give him justice. Yeah. And he said he's a wood whisperer, and that to me sums him up. And so Al, thanks for that, mate. I've nicked it. And he said to me, I'm going to make me drums. I'm going to go out on my own. He said, "Would you come with me?" I said, "Well, look, we got no hardware, and I'm going on this massive world tour. Sure. Over, Book of Souls tours going out for a couple of years." I said, "And I really need, if I'm going to come in and be a part of the family, we've got to have the hardware, and you can't do that sort of thing overnight. It takes years to design it, to work out what you want. And to be honest, the hardware that we've had I think it took about 4 years, plus the fact it's very super expensive to tool all that up. Yeah. So the money had to come in, and it finally, we got our own hardware called the Casino line. But anyway, so that was the reason I didn't go with Keith. And I said, "Look, be honest with you, mate. I'm going to go back and ask Sonar if they'll have me back." I said, "I'm going to go with me cap in my hand and see if I can go back and join Sonar," because I needed the support that they, at the bigger company that they are, could give me. Plus the fact that, I love Sonar. I'd love to go back with them. And that's why 4 years in the making. Sure. They built my Book of Souls drum set, beautiful drum kit, and they bought a beautiful legacy of the Beast kit for me. Yeah. And in the meantime, the hardware package came, and when the business side of things went a little bit AWOL with Sonar, I obviously said to Keith, "Look, this hardware is just off the charts." And Alan Kitchen designed. He's no longer with the company, but Alan Kitchen design. It was a genius. Yes. The guy was definitely the right guy for the job at that time. Yeah. And I said, "Look, okay, look, I'm not very happy with Sonar. We've got a lot of stuff going on. Can I come in?" And that's why I went back with BBC. I now came back to the drum whisperer that made all these beautiful drum sets for me when we were with Premier. Sure. Plus the fact that he's the third musketeer, or the first or the second, whichever. Nobody's got the dibs on the first, second, or third. I can't remember their names, but we're all the three musketeers. And anyway, so that's how that started. That came about, and to be a part of the BDC. And then again, hang on a minute, they're in Manchester. Well, Stockport, it's right next door. It's part of Manchester, isn't it? So the stars had aligned. We had Trooper Ale, which is brewed in Stockport. Yeah. And we got BDC in Stockport, and British, Nicko's drum one. So my wife said, if we ever move back to England, where are we going to go? I said, we've got to go to Manchester, haven't we? And it's been a great journey. And of course, everything was moving so well. And we had all these wonderful plans for this last year. But obviously, it was, you know, we like everybody else, couldn't have fulfilled them.
Yeah.
But, once things start opening up again and we can go out and do some in-person, face-to-face shows and you know, whatnot, because they branded me brand ambassador. Yeah, which means I've got to go around the world, you know, selling the wares, if you like, and that can not come any too soon.
No,
you know.
But I mean, and as a brand, I mean, it's not a huge name, but the quality is just unreal, isn't it? For anybody that hasn't seen a British drum company drum up close, the craftsmanship is unreal. It really is, isn't it?
Yeah, and you know, the thing is what Keith's done. I mean, not only you know, Al Murray came in with Keith primarily and was the main shareholder of the company, and then there's Ian Matthews, myself, Pete Salisbury, Stu Warmington. I probably might have missed someone out there. I'm sorry if I have. Gosh, but you know, what he's done is on the top side, and we got Mel Stewart in there.
Yeah, Mel,
and Tony and Craig has come in, and he does a couple of days a week in with the company. So the gang's all back together. But here's the thing: the work guys, the guys that do the crafting and the spray painting and the laminating, they're all like-minded guys. And I think we've got a couple of apprentices. I know we've got one apprentice who's come in that keeps training. Yeah. Because this sort of thing, you know, you can't learn it just out of a book and in your woodworking class at school. If you still do woodworking, I don't know. So it's the team. It's truly a family affair. You know, everybody's so. You know, on the same page to make these drums, and they're all very proud of their involvement in what part of the production that they're involved with. Yeah. So it's a great bunch of guys. Keith is, you know, you got to watch. He's the sort of guy you got to watch. There was a time I was in Premier and we were talking about sounds and different woods. What would it be like putting drilling holes down through the shell laminates? You know, so just what it would sound like. You know, would it enhance the resonance of the? You know, would it take a certain top out? Would it put mid in there? Would it whatever? So the next day or 2 days later, I go back into the old Premier factory, and he's got this shell made, and I go, "What's that?" He said, you remember that thing, that idea we were talking about? He said, I came in the other night and I thought I'd build I'd make this drum. Sounded a piece of shit, but that's not the point. You know, it wasn't the greatest sounding. You know, he comes up and with these, you know, we were talking about making drums out of yew wood. Yeah. And it's very difficult to make with that particular wood, and then the next thing I know, he's got a tom-tom made. And in fact, he had two done. He had a horizontal and a vertical grain drum. Sure. This was when he was with Premier. This is how he was. Yeah. And I just fell in love with him. And Craig and I and Keith, that's where that passion for the BDC company lies with Keith, but as kind of he tarred me with the brush and Craig. And I'm so happy to be a part. Plus, here's the thing, made in Britain. Yeah, absolutely. Okay, I mean, then you go, hang on, Nick, you were a sonner for all those years. They're German. That's true. That's we only had a couple of choices of British drum companies in the 60s and 70s. Well, there were a few more boozy Norks, I think Edgeware and Ajax and a couple of other bits and bobs, you know.
Edgeware snare drum there, actually.
You got bleed blow! Look at that. Looks like the old teardrop sonar, doesn't it? Bring it up. Let's have a quick peek. I'm sure the boys and girls. Look at you. There you go. Oh my gosh. Yeah. Oh, look at that. I bet that sounds wicked.
It's not bad.
Is it a birch shell on that? Do you think
it is? It looks birch to me.
It looks birchy. Yeah. Looks a bit Martin.
Yeah.
Boys and girls who love Maiden. And
yeah, I'm with you.
Yeah.
Well, that cost me six quid, that did, Nicko.
No.
Yeah.
Holy shoot. Oh, that's fantastic. Well, yeah, you know, so that made me, gave me this, it was like the cherry on the cake. I thought, right, I was Premier for 22 years, all hand built in England. Well, you know, the Elite Series drums,
yes, of course,
and the modern classics. And that's basically how I ended up being basically, what do you call Mancunian?
Yeah, absolutely.
I guess I'm an honorary Mancunian.
Well, that's you need to work on.
The boys and girls, you ain't got the accent for us.
You need to work on that a little bit. I think our kid does the job. Say our kid after
right.
you're ready to go. But
yeah.
you know, what a company to be involved with, and it's going to be nice when you can get out and actually play the stuff, isn't it? You know, and,
absolutely. Well, you know, we've got the. He when I first came in on board there, he straight away he built me a new Legacy kit. But unlike the Sona Beechwood, he made it out of birch.
Yeah.
And to be honest with you, I was thinking, I don't know if I'm, you know, birch is it's a nice, it's a resonant wood, but it is quick.
Yeah,
doesn't have as long as a decay that I'm used to with a square size drum.
Sure.
With a harder wood, and he said, "Oh no, Nick," he said, "I'm going to make it with an inside laminate of oak." I went, "Oh yeah." I said, "Do you think that's going to make it?" He said, "Of course it is." He said, "Anything you put a piece of oak on," he said, "Believe me, it's like a nice piece of furniture." I said, "Well, I'm not going to eat my dinner on it, mate. For crying out loud." So. Anyway, it's he made the. I'm not sure what the toms are. I think it might all be 10-ply. I know the bass drum and the wood snare is. I think the toms might be 7. I'm not sure. I'd have to check. I'd have to check. Go back and check with him. But so anyway, I think there's 6, 8, 10, 12, 13, probably 7, maybe.
Yeah.
And then 10 down to 14, 15, and 16 maybe. And the floor tom and bass drum. Anyway, so oak interior laminate, probably if it's on the bass drum, then there'll be 8 birch, and then there's the fishtail oak, it's called, on the outside.
Right.
That's on the Icarus kit,
yeah.
But on a Legacy kit, we got a wrap.
Okay.
So I got all the same artwork off that I had on the original kit, on the Sona kit. Sent those out, got them remade for. Actually, he got them made. We just sent the artwork to a company called Green Shires that did the wraps for me.
Okay.
And the nice thing about the way the BDC drums are built, they're done with what's called a cold press. And unlike the larger companies that tend, you can. Okay, the difference between hot and cold is you can make a drum in 10 minutes. With a hot press, and that means that you apply heat to the glue and it clears the glue. The wood maybe doesn't like it too much, so against a 10-minute shell, we take 24 hours to make a shell. So the cold press gives you the opportunity of laying your laminate in first, whereas if you hot press, you can't do that. So you have to make the drum, and then you put the adhesive on the laminate and do it separately.
Sure.
So there's a little time saving in that respect, but we think the wood doesn't get stressed out because it's not being superheated.
Yeah. And
we do a cut, a glue, an insert. No, insert the laminate inside in the shell, in the mold, and then it's cut to a precision where it's clicked. So you put it in, and there's a little bubble that comes in where the join is, and to the left or right, and it bowls out like a little bubble, and you click it, and it's that precise.
Yeah.
So you click it in. Next one goes in, same thing. Boop, 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 boop. You stick a little bladder in it, blow it up with compressed air, and leave it overnight. And the next day you come in, there's your shell. Goes up and gets
craftsmanship.
Absolutely. I mean, that's how precise it is. Now, I'm not saying any other drum companies, you know, don't have that precision, but this is totally 100% hand built.
Yeah, and this isn't just your drums. This is every shell.
Yeah, every drum in the family that comes out. So yeah, that's amazing. You know. So anyway, he made that legacy kit for me, which was set up in the factory, in the showroom, actually, as you go into the factory.
Yeah.
And my drum tech had to go in and pick it up and send it back to the warehouse. So whenever we're ready, we don't want to sort of go, oh, we can go away next week and do a gig somewhere. We haven't got to go to get the drum set from BDC.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm not saying that's going to happen, boys and girls. I wish I'll get a phone call while we're talking now.
Yeah.
You know, oh, Nick, can you go get yourself over to Southend? You know.
Yeah. Wouldn't that be something, eh?
Wouldn't it? I think, be honest, with the next couple of months, at the end of maybe May, I reckon travel, you know, the holiday restrictions would be out of place, and people, you know, people that have had the vaccine can go, oh, we'll pop off. People that haven't, maybe you can take to somewhere that don't require, you know, the vaccine.
Anything's better than nothing, isn't it? You know.
Absolutely, mate. Yeah. So there you go. So we had the legacy kit built, and we had the hardware smoke chromed.
Yeah.
Just to suit the you know, basically it's a replica of my Sona kit, but it's a BDC built kit.
Yeah,
different shells.
Perfect. Just beautiful drums, full stop. And I honestly can't say enough. I don't work. I have no affiliation to British Drum Company. I've been to the factory. I know a few of the guys, and I have nothing but respect for what they do. They're really, really, honestly, it's something else.
Yeah, I'm so proud to be a part of the family, and such a key endorsee, if you like.
Sure.
Although I'm more than that to the brand, and it means a lot more to me than just I've got a free drum set out of it. It's never been about that. But you know, it's just, you know, and once this show goes out tomorrow and people see how they're made and the love and the passion that goes in behind it, you know, sooner or later, and the fact is that although we've been in lockdown, there still have been orders coming in for the product based on what's been happening in the last 3 or 4 years, especially since the NAMM show, which was last January.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's all good.
It's all good.
It's all good.
Well, look, before you go, Nicko, there's a couple of things I'd like to ask you. And one of them is from 1973, the year I was born. Cockerel Chorus. Nice one, Cyril.
Oh, jeez.
Tell us about that beauty.
Was that 1973?
It was. It was.
I'd only been pro probably a year. Let me see. Hang on a minute. 62. Yeah, I just turned pro that year. Well, okay. That came about. There was when I went professional, I started working with these two songwriters, and they lived out in Dunstable. And I was the only one who had a driving license. So I got 50 quid a week back in 1972.
That's good money.
It was, handy, you know. And that was partly because I was the only bloke with a driving license. So I had to drive the van with the gear in it and all that malarkey. We had a box transit. Anyway, so I'll be legging it back and up and down the M1 to the A5 and then off to Dunstable. So that started with these two guys, and they were the guys that made me go pro. So we did a bunch of demo tracks for April Music, which was CBS's publishing house, I believe. And I met so we needed a band. So Mickey was the singer, Mick Leslie. Billy Day was the keyboard player, and they had this partnership with pair of them. Billy taught me so much. He was going, because he was a great percussionist. He couldn't read music, but you know, he could sit on and go, oh, that's B flat, C flat minor, and he'd know the notes, but he couldn't read music.
Yeah.
And we used to sit down, and he'd say, player, what kind of groove are you going to play to this? And he'd get going. And he taught me so much. So I hats off to Billy. We lost him probably 94, 95, somewhere like that.
Yeah.
But anyway, we went in and did some demos, and they needed an electric guitar player and a bass player. And they knew guys from Blossom Toes and B.B. Blunder. And it was Brian Belshaw on bass and Brian Godding on guitar. And so they recruited them to come in. So I met these two guys, right? And we hit it off straight away. So we did a bunch of demos, and we met, and we were asked, the three of us, Brian Godin and Brian Belshaw and I were asked to do some session work for a guy called, what's his freaking name now? I'll get it in a minute. He worked with EMI, and we were doing these sessions for him. Oh gosh, I can't remember his name right now. It'll come. Anyway, we then ended up working for a company called Young Blood Records. Martin Clark was the guy, and he was an A&R guy with EMI, and he was a producer. So he ended up knowing this guy called Mike Dolan from Young Blood Records.
Yeah.
And he said, yeah, I've been asked to do a record for this guy, and I'm going to try and remember his name. It's terrible, isn't it? That's got this song called Nice One, Cyril. He said, anyway, he said, I think I can get you in on the session. So myself and Brian Belshaw ended up going in a studio, and I will try and remember the name of the guy that wrote this track, but he actually plagiarism. He stole it from Good Night Ladies was the song on. Right. It was a Broadway show, right? Anyway, so these two songwriters came in with this song and this arrangement, and we went in and it was Nice One, Cyril. And I think it got the number 14 in the charts when it was released. So I ended up doing Top of the Pops with it. But here's the thing, I didn't play the drums, I was up singing. Because it was the Cockerel chorus.
Oh, fantastic.
But out of that, Harold Spiro was the name of the guy. The main guy that wrote that, Harold Spiro.
Yeah.
See, I do get there in the end, boys and girls. You just got to give me a minute. It's like when you play the slot machines. Does the penny drop? Yeah, get it sooner or later. You never know what you're going to get if you pull my arm. You can pull my finger and you know what you're going to get. So anyway, so I did the Nice One Cyril thing. It went to, I think, 14 or 12, whatever. It went in the top 10 at the end, I think. And we did Top of the Pops twice. And would you believe Crackerjack? Do you remember that?
Yeah, I do.
Right. So Crackerjack, where Leslie Crowther was the host of that at that time. So that was the beginning. And then after we did that single, Martin phones us all up. He says, "Yeah, guys," he said, I've got this incredible deal together. We're going to do an album called The Cockerel Chorus, Let's Have a Party. Which is what we did. We had a party. And we went into Pie Studios, which were at the back of Marble Arch in that. It's not there now. I went to Pie Studios. It was me, Little Brian we called him, Little Brian Godding, Big Brian Belshaw. Martin obviously was producing it. I think, oh God, I can't remember any other players that came in. And the deal was that we had to do half the record, like 6 tracks, we had to record the backing tracks for. And the other 6 tracks, I think there were 12 on there, maybe 10 or whatever, half of which we had to record, half of which they bought from a library. Yeah. And they didn't have singers. So we all sang in the studio. Okay, all around the mic, pissed up, party 7 cans, plus all kinds of other bits and bobs, boys and girls, which I shall go into in my book that you can read when I finish writing it. And there's lots of stories about this particular period of time where I did sessions for a couple of years before I joined my first touring band, which was Streetwalkers. Yeah. But that's how that Nice One Cyril came about.
It's unmistakably you on kit. You can hear it straight away. It's like, yeah, there it is. It is.
I can't remember the drum part. I can remember Nice One, Cyril, nice one, son. Nice one, Cyril. Let's have an upright up lane is the name of the best team around. And to see 'em will fill you with wonder. From the terrace instead, every Spurs loving man. That's it. That's all you get.
But it's funny how the saying "nice one, Cyril's" kind of stuck, and it's, you know, it's still used, and it's.
I know, but here's the thing: not a lot of people. You would bring that up, and especially on this Proxy Zoom meeting. Now everybody's going to know about it. It kind of went down under the carpet for many years. you know what? It's something I'm very proud of, actually, because it was really the beginning of setting me up on my session path. Now, I don't really score music, but, you know, I could hear a song. I was pretty good at hearing a song once or twice, and I could play it. And, you know, I'd have bar sheets and, you know, oh, there's 14 of that, and there's a break. I wonder what happens after that. Oh, yeah, okay, well, we'll deal with that when we get there. So it was a very interesting... Yeah, very interesting time in my life. That early studio work, you know.
I can just hear all the Maiden fans watching this going, "Hang on a minute, this is Nicko McBrain of Iron Maiden who's played on, and you've asked him about that bloody."
oh God, dude, I think it was a Manchester City song too, but that's another story. I can't really remember much about it. There's a lot of those. I lived the 70s. I was there, but I don't really remember it.
A lot of people say that, don't they, about the 70s?
It's very true. But then, of course, you could say, what happened to you last week, Nick? You know. And I've been teetotal. By the way, I'm going to blow my own juice. 6 years in May.
Good on you.
I haven't had a drink, and I quit drugs way back in the 80s. Yeah. So, you know.
Do you feel better for it? Sometimes.
I do actually. I mean, yes. I do, but I've got to be very honest with you. There are times, especially when you know I go out for a nice meal with the missus, and actually we both said, "Oh, fancy a nice glass of red, maybe a Chateau Palmer 75 would be nice right now," you know. And it's got we go, but you know, as the old saying is, 1 too many and 20 ain't enough. Yeah. So we don't take the chance. Sure. But you know, in those days there was a lot of partying going on, and. But they were the wild 70s for me. Yeah. And but that was the beginning. That nice one, Cyril. Yeah. Thanks for bringing it up.
I had to bring it up. Sorry, Nicko, but it was one of those. I thought, yeah, I've got to mention it. But and there's one more thing I'd like to ask you about. And do you remember the first time you got together with the Maiden boys in a studio or rehearsal room? You know, be it an audition or whatever. Do you remember that day clearly?
Well. I didn't have an audition, actually. Okay. The first time I met them was in 1979. And I played in a band called McKitty. It was a 3-piece rock band. Donovan McKitty on guitar. And we had a different bass player. But a Brazilian bass player. He had a very strange name, and I cannot remember. He didn't last too long, and then we got Charlie Tumahai came in. Anyway, we did a couple of gigs around London and a couple of showcase shows. A guy called Neville Roberts was managing the band at the time. Anyway, he comes around one night. He says, "All right, we need some rehearsals there. We got a gig, a festival, an indoor festival in Belgium." Mm-hmm. He said, "Well, we'll get you together and we'll drive over in my Rolls Royce. We'll take the ferry." Okay, no, lovely. Oh, no problem, is it?
Will do.
Anyway, that's another story. So anyway, look, we get over there, and it's Maiden's first ever European show. It's their first show out of England. They'd never been playing out of England before, except for on this show.
Sure.
So, and Harry tells the story better than me, because he said the first time he saw me, I was walking across. They were sitting outside a coffee shop, come bar, in this city in Belgium, and I was walking across the square with Donovan and Charlie Tumahai, who was a Maui New Zealander.
Sure.
So he had the frizzy hair, and this Donovan was a Jamaican American, you know, half caste lad, nice, beautiful brown skin, and not too much of an afro, but you know, you know, and he was 6 foot, probably 6'3", towered above me and Charlie. Well, not tower, but he was the tallest. And Harry, remember, I had these flare bell bottom trousers on and a hat. He thought I was a pimp. He thought I saw this geezer walking towards us. So then, you know, that's when we all met, and then we did the show. And Harry stood on the side of the stage, and this is how I got the gig with Maiden. From him seeing me playing with McKee, because Donovan's gear broke down, his amp blew up or something, and we didn't carry spare stuff in those days, you know.
Sure.
And you know, spare guitar strings and stuff, maybe your drum head, but he didn't have a spare amplifier hanging around. So Charlie and I did an impromptu solo.
Okay.
And Steve's never been a big fan of either bass or drum solos. That's why we don't get them in. We got them in the first tour I did with Maiden, and that was it.
Yeah.
But he's never. His philosophy is the kids would prefer to hear a song, and he's right.
Yeah, I agree.
I perfectly understand that. So we did this solo. Harry's standing on the side stage, and he remembered. He said, "I've never seen anything like it." The two of you, because Bebop Deluxe, who Charlie Toomer and I used to play, were one of Steve's not favourite, but one of his top bands.
Yeah, yeah.
So Charlie impressed. So he seeing one of his heroes, plus you know this lunatic drummer who he thought was a pimp. And then after the gig, we came off stage, and there was a blazing argument. We had caravans for changing rooms and stuff.
Yeah.
You know, it was an indoor, you know, festival. In fact, Judas Priest was supposed to play it, and they pulled out, and Nazareth ended up headlining it. And there was this massive blazing argument, and a beer bottle went through the you know, the caravan window, and it's rocking. I buggered off, and Harry even to this day thinks it was me. And I said to him, "It wasn't me arguing." "Oh no, it was you. I could tell it was your voice." "No, it was not me, Steve. It was Charlie and Donovan." And he remembered that. So when they were looking for, you know, to replace Clive, I was their first thought. And so that was my first meeting with Maiden, was on their very first European.
Fantastic. So you made a hell of an impression straight away.
I did. So then I get the phone call in 1982, plus the fact that, okay, so we moved forward a couple of years. I ended up doing a stint with a French band called Trust. And Trust ended up playing support to Maiden in 1980 on a Killers tour.
Yeah.
So we did like a month with them across England. And then moving on early 82, before the boys went off to America to do their tour with Bruce, the Number of the Beast, we did a couple of support. We did 10 shows supporting with Maiden, and they did 2 shows supporting Trust.
Right.
On we had a couple of headline shows, and they ended up supporting us, which was really weird.
Yeah, yeah.
Anyway, so there was that connection, and living on the road, not with them, but you know, alongside them. And 1982, after I got the elbow from Trust. No fault of my own, by the way, boys and girls. They just had a lot of trouble with money. They ended up owing me a lot of money for the tour I did with them. So it was called the Marshall Crev, Walk or Die or something like that, which was the album I played with Trust. So when they called me up in the middle of 82. And then they said, right, well, you know, things ain't going too well with Clive. And then it was okay. So I was laid off. And then it was like, no, he's not doing too well again. And he was laid off. And come Christmas of that year, it was finalised that I was going to join the band and go and do the next record. So my very first beat I played with IMA was on January the 9th, 1983. And they basically, we ended up doing, I think, Hallowed, Killers, Iron Maiden, bunch of you know, the older songs.
Yeah, sure.
Just for a jam, you know, Rothschild, and we ended up. So I don't recall. It might have been Rothschild, the very first song we played together. I may be wrong, but we were in a room in a hotel on the island of Jersey, and that was my audition. I mean, if I didn't play the way Steve thought I would be playing to be a part of that band, I would have known it probably within 2 or 3 songs. Right, that's it, you know, piss off. You know? So there wasn't really there was an audition. It was the first couple of songs we played, but you know, I was booked to go and join and you know, do the record and whatnot. So
yeah, because obviously you know, Clive, no complaints as a drummer ever, but you were very different drummers.
True, and now Clive and I were really tight. You know, after that all went down, and I replaced. In fact, Clive ended up going and doing an album with Trust.
Like swap bands.
So you know, we flip flopped, but it took a couple of 3 years before I even saw Clive and spoke with him. And the next time I saw him was, funny enough, at my very first drum show I ever did for Piesty in 1985. Might have been 80. No, it was 85. And I was on the bill with John Eisman, Simon Kirk. Funny enough, talking about Simon earlier.
Indeed, yes. Thank you, Simon, for setting this up, by the way. You're a gent.
With Simon, John Eisman, myself, John Keeble, and Charlie Morgan.
Great names there.
And I'll never forget it. You know, Clive was there. We met after, but the very first, so I did this drum thing, right? And I don't do drum clinics. I've never regarded myself as technically proficient enough to do a clinic, but I do a drum show.
Yeah, sure.
Now, the first drum clinic I did, I thought I'd give it a go and see, and I'm sitting there playing and I'm doing all these paradiddles and wobbly diddles and doodly diddle double bubble triples and all this and flammadiddles and flammadiddles and piddly widdlies and, you know, just making a fool of myself. Did a nice long solo. It was really good fun. And I thought, oh, I suppose I better get up to the microphone. So I got up to the mic and okay, has anybody got any questions? The first thing somebody asked me was, how big's your willy? Some bright spark. And I wouldn't be surprised if it was Clive that said it. I wouldn't put it past him. But someone sitting in the back row of this theatre, how big's your willy? Comes bellowing down at me. So quick as a flash, I turn around and I says, it's 12 inches, but I don't use it as a rule. Place went nuts.
Yeah.
Aha! I thought right there and then, comedy is the way out of this for me. So I started to lace all of my drum shows premised around talking about the gear and telling a few stories and trying a gag or two in, which I learned from a very dear friend of mine called Jimmy Jones. And that was that. So anyway, so after the show finished, I came out and I saw Clive. And it was like he didn't want to talk to me. And I said, Clive, you know, mate, we're friends. You know, I've missed you.
Sure.
Oh, he said, yeah, all right, you know. And then we kind of made our peace because he thought that I'm going to tell you a story, but I'm going to write it in my book. And when you read this story, you're going to understand what happened a little more than what. You know, how I'm going to explain how a certain phone call was given to me and what happened after that is how Clive found out about what was going on. And I'm going to explain the story in the book. So, and by the way, it's called You Just Never Know, Do You?
When's it out?
When I finish it.
Oh,
I've been writing it for 4 years. It's like a memoir. It's not, and I keep getting these blocks, and I'll sit and I'll open up the computer and start writing because I'm doing it myself. I'm not having a ghostwriter. Yeah. And I kind of get really angry, and I just shut the computer and go, I'll do this tomorrow. And it's been like that. But I finished a chapter off last week, and I kind of got the juices going again. And I'm just now got into where I'm going pro. So the you know, that story we just talked about.
So you've got a way to go yet, then.
Yeah, well, the thing is, right, the original publishing house up in New York who asked me to do this book wanted me to sort of do all the art, because this guy said, "Oh, you're a great storyteller, Nick." And I went, he said, "You ought to write a book." I said, "Well, give us a deal." And like 6 months later, there was a deal on the table. Well, it's gone now because they gave me the money up front, some of it, and I had to give it back to them because I ain't produced a book within 2 years. So it's no biggie. It wasn't a problem for me. And he said, "Oh, your Maiden stories are brilliant." And I said, "Well, if you want me to write a book, I'm going to write my life story from when I was born, my mum was basically. I'm not going to just go and jump in. Oh yeah, 1982, I joined a fucking rock band. I said there's 10 years of work prior to that,
of course,
and stories of people that I've met and road stories, that good stuff."
That's partly why I mentioned Nice One.
So here's the thing. So I said to my manager, Andy Taylor, a couple of months, well, it must be 6-7 months ago. "You all right? Where's your book coming?" I said, I'm stuck. "Oh, bloody, we have to give the money back." Well, I said, "No problem." And I said to him, "You know what I was thinking of doing?" I said, "I've started from when I was born, and stories of growing up and all this, and how I first got into playing and my first drum set and this, that, and the other, and who taught me and who did that, whose influences." I said, "As soon as I get to 1983, I'm going to end it." And he went, "Ooh, what do you mean?" I said, "Well, I'll talk about the Peace of Mind tour and then I'll say, 'To be continued.' You just never know, do you? And I'll get a second book out of it." Ain't that a good thing? Ain't that a good way of thinking?
Yep.
He said to me, "Oh, no, you can't do that, Nicky." I said, "They're going to want the lot." I said, "You don't want the lot, believe me." I said to my wife, she said, "You're not going to put everything in that book, are you?" I said, "Well, why not?"
Mate, I've read Carmine Appice's book. It can't be as bad as that one.
Oh, Carmine.
I interviewed Carmine a few weeks ago, so I was like, whoa.
Oh, I haven't read his book, but he only lives like 20 miles away from me. He just moved down to Florida about a year ago.
Yeah.
And it's a year ago now. And I actually, we speak very often. And he's going to be featured in my book quite heavily because of my first meeting with him, which was in December of 1983.
Right.
Was the end of the show, the end of the tour that we did on that Peace of Mind tour. I think that was the last gig. We might have done a few other countries, but we did the Dortmund rock pop thing.
Yeah.
And he was playing with Ozzy at the time when my first meeting with him. Yeah, I mean, Vanilla Fudge. You keep me hanging on. I mean, you know. Yeah, what was that? 1967, 60, whenever that was. It was
miles ahead of its time.
Yeah, I mean, and he was whacking the shit out of the kit, and he was twiddling his sticks around. Nothing like Dino Donnelly from the Rascals, I'll be honest. That guy had it. I've never seen anybody do anything like that. Although I saw John Eisman play with 3 drumsticks. At a drum show I saw him at in the mid, it must have been 75, 76. And he started off, he put one under his arm and he started playing and he threw one up and he's juggling. Have you ever seen him do it?
No.
It's the most retarded. I've never ever seen anyone do that in my life before. And he was playing with one stick and he was juggling the stick and just playing whatever the feel was. I was like, what the frick is this? And you see all these geezers, twiddly widdlies, and I'm thinking, that ain't really spinning a stick. That's sticking the stick in between your finger and wobbling it around a bit. Look at me. No, we're supposed to be putting it between the... Carmine does that, though. I pulled him up about it. I said, you just twiddle it around. That's how you're supposed to do it. No, fucking ain't.
Hey, read this book, Nicko, honestly. Yours can't be as There's a few chapters in that. It made my hair go curly, put it that way. That's saying something.
I love Carmine. We get on so well. He's in LA at the moment. I think he gets back this week. He had some little job he was doing. A mate of mine actually had down here on the weekend, had an art exhibition. His name's John Douglas. And for those boys and girls that are big fans of the band, if you noticed on the last few tours, my gongs have been painted. Nice artwork on me gongs. Book of Soul had the Mayan calendar and the Growler, Eddie Growler from Jaguar in the middle. Legacy of the Beast tour is the Cathedral stained glass on the base.
Yeah, beautiful.
And John painted those. He's done 4 of them for me.
Okay.
And he had an exhibition. Anyway, Carmine was supposed to come, and I called him up. I said, "You coming?" Oh, going to LA, Nick. What are you doing? You going to LA? I thought, hang on a minute. What are you going over there for? So I've got a bit of a TV show special I'm doing. And I think Alice Cooper's in it and stuff. That was something he's up to.
Sure.
He's got his finger in so many pies. You just never know, you know.
It's a busy man.
Yeah, lovely lad. And, of course, Vinny.
Yeah.
I mean, out of the two of them, I've got to go with Vinny, mate. You know, he's a single bass drum player.
Yeah.
Carmine's got the double bubble gear going on.
Well, he's a man after your own heart, isn't he, with that right foot?
Absolutely. You know? Yeah, and Vinny and I have, we're just old school like that, you know. I mean, you know, people ask me, why don't you play with two? Well, it's too freaking difficult with one. Why should I compound the issue? But to be honest with you, using two, you know, my son's got a couple of, and he had his kit in my studio for a little while. And I've got to be honest, I went on there, and the thing is, once you get used to playing with a double bass drum, it's really weird going back to a single.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because then the hands have to take over and do a couple of more extra beats here and there, you know, especially a 6-note grouping. You know, you can do it with with two on the bass drum, but where you've got, you know, you've got your double kicks, you can kind of get away with, you know, two on the top. It's fun because you can change it all around. But you know, I started to really get into it. I might go one of these.
It wouldn't you wouldn't look right with a double bass kit. It would go. It just wouldn't look right, would it?
No, it wouldn't. And you know, I'm not. You know, maybe what I'll do is if I go out and, you know, when I say if, I mean when. I go out and can do some shows with the BDC boys and go around, you know, hopefully I'll go around the world and do some drum shows and talk about the brand and how the drums are made and the BDC story and everything. And maybe I could get a kit, you know, use a you know, an imp kit maybe, and let's have a double bass drum put on it.
Yeah, lovely.
What the frick is he doing? Oh, he's finally got it. But no, I've really enjoyed it. But you know, it's horses for courses. You know, the younger kids seem to, you know, there'd Shaughnessy, Louis Belson, Carmine, Ginger Baker, and then Cozy in the early '80s. You know, late '60s and '70s and whatnot. You know, and then you had the other just traditional drummers that you know, had a 5 or 6 piece kit. You know, big kits weren't really hit in those earlier days, you know. Even Ginger's kit only had two up and two down, two bass drums. You know, that's anyway. You know, horses for courses, and I mean, you look at people like Thomas Lang.
Machine.
Oh, mate. Anyway, you know, that's how when you take that, you're drumming to that extreme with 2 pedals, 2 feet, and you can do wonderful things with them. You know.
You know what? You've got your signature style, and it works. It goes hand in hand with the boys from Maiden, doesn't it? Anything else, I think it wouldn't be right. So. Well,
there is that. You know, I mean, I've often thought about if, you know, how would it sound if there was someone else up there? First of all, I don't know if the chemistry in the band would be. It certainly wouldn't be the same.
No.
You know, how the other guys feel about when they turn around and they see this handsome-looking fella sitting behind the drums. Because now I'm sitting a lot higher than I used to. You can see my lovely chops. Yeah. I mean, I said to Steve years ago, can I go back to a little kit? He said, no. I said, why not? He said, because everybody about to see you. And I went, oh, because and that's not because I'm ugly, is it? I said, it's because I'm the best looking bloke in the band. Yeah, that's right. So, you know, it stuck.
Yeah.
and I've got to be honest, I've changed my drum setup over the last couple of years, and even more so today. I'm just digressing a bit.
That's fine.
Because the Icarus kit I just got in the studio, I mean, the shame for sending it down. I've had it in the garage for about 4 weeks while I cleared out all the other stuff that I needed to move around and whatnot. I've flattened the drums even more.
All right, okay.
And I've got them down a little bit lower so that all the toms up here, I've taken my hi-hats down, I've taken my stall up.
Right.
And so I'm sort of relearning I like to be able to set my drums so I can shut my eyes. There's the 6, there's the 8, there's the 10, there's the 12. There's a hat. 13, 14, 15, 16, floor, cymbal, whatever size.
Yeah.
So I don't look, because sometimes I'm playing there and I want to go over there. I don't look there.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that's what you have to do to train yourself, but when your drum set's set the same every day you play it, you ain't, you know, when you move it to another, that's why we have such amazing technicians that work with us.
It's common sense, that almost, isn't it? Shutting your eyes.
Yeah. And the thing is, with a big kit, if one piece of the drum set is slightly wrong, the rest of it is way out.
Yeah, sure.
But so now because I'm sitting higher, I'm doing that to save my back, because I've got serious, God, a pain in the arse. I've got arthritis in my pelvis and on my left side.
Right.
So, if I sit up, what I was doing on the Book of Souls and Legacy tour is I had them still quite high, but I had to sit up to attack the drums on the left side. Yeah. Not so much on the right, because, they're lower. So now what I want to do is I want to be completely aware of sitting higher. So now I get my posture better. Better late than never, I say, boys and girls. To anyone who's out there who's thinking about changing, it might be worthwhile, if you're younger, to make sure your posture is right all from the beginning. I didn't. I always sat low. Everything was high, and I'd crouch over and is a classic piece of film from Trust days. And you can see like my back is turned, where I slouch. I was what I call myself as what I call a lazy drummer. Not in terms of what you're playing.
No, definitely not.
The way, Anyway, where were we? Oh yeah. So the rest of the guys, they are used to my Nicko-isms, the way I play, my color, my texture, my personality. And there's plenty of other drummers out there that could wail at what I do. I mean, I've heard, guys doing cover versions of tracks, and I actually suck. You all do. No, I'm only joking. Please get Eagle. When are you going to do Where Eagles Dare? Get the intro fucking right. Anyway, let me see. So, yes, there's many guys out there that could come in and sit on that drum stool, or not mine, but on a drum stool and perform and drive the band. But I don't think it would be the same. It
wouldn't. It definitely wouldn't.
I do have a fingerprint, and all of us, that's what I think all drummers are looking for. We can all, when we're learning, learn from the best, sit and play Kashmir or Black Knight and any of me and Ian Pace's stuff, or whatever rocks your boat. But then what I used to like to do, and I still think you should all maybe keep this in your mind, is put your own fingerprint to it. Yeah. You don't have to play verbatim. You're not doing the song for Ian or for me. If you sat in front of me and I go, right, let's hear Where Eagles Dare, or Blood Brothers, or any track where there's a certain feel that I play. And I'd expect you to do you, but keeping the arrangement of the song. I don't know where I'm looking. Anyway, I'm looking at me over here at the moment. You know what I mean? It's totally. So having said that, there ain't no one who can replace me, mate. I'm sorry. It's just it's not possible.
Yeah,
No, don't even think about it, you lot. I mean, unless the good Lord takes me up in the next year or two, then there ain't no chance.
But you're on about your thumbprint, your fingerprint, whatever, and you have got that. There's a few drummers. Alex Van Halen is one for my.
Yes.
Roger Taylor from Queen is another one I can spot a mile off. And your good self, and Ian Pace, and Bonham, of course. You know. Yeah,
JB, man. I think it's all those wonderful players that you've mentioned are also totally influenced by the one. I mean, if you're a drummer, if you're a young drummer, right, and you go back in time, nine times out of 10, I think what you end up doing when you're say 16 or 10, 12, 16 years old, even younger, but say when you've got more conscious about your own feelings and you're thinking for yourself, is you tend to listen to people that you're listening to musically or that are current at the time. Right, you know, like I listened to a lot of John. Actually, before John, I was listening to Ringo Starr, Charlie Watts, and Keith Moon. Those three guys, because they were having songs in the charts with their band at the time. So there was a lot of radio in those days. We didn't have internet, right? But the texture of what you're listening to is very important. But so you go back to hear the greats. You go back to see the great Buddy Rich playing solos, and you go like, how the frick does he do that? How's he left hand go? Then you go and you move forward and you look at Journey, see Steve Smith.
Yeah,
you know, Steve was you know, such a great rock drummer, still is. But then he went and expanded it into more avant-garde jazz, which he then brought back with his style of playing back into Journey when he did a couple 2 or 3 years just in the last 5 years with them, and he got the chance to do his solo. And you look at how he has manipulated that left hand double stroke bounce roll with the fulcrum like Buddy used to do.
Yeah.
So he's learned all of these things from these greats, as well as looking at himself. I mean, he's a great player. I think if you want to go and learn, watch. He is one of those. He's a teacher. He's a guru to me, and I love him very much. And I think you know, he's one of my favorite guys to sit and watch and to listen to how he explains creating pieces of music and showing you how he plays stuff. That's important. And you know, John Bonham, without a doubt, I think influenced at least 90% of all drummers that play in any kind of band had him somewhere put his fingerprint on their lives, where they take it, because we all take little bits from everybody, and it's how we put those. It's how we mix the ingredients up.
Yeah.
Right. You know, look at Jason. Jason was, you know, he had Keith Moon hanging around when he was like 6 years old, and I think Keith gave him his first drum set.
Sure.
You know, people like that, and you know, Jason still has his own style and thumbprint.
Yeah,
and he kind of looks to the blueprint of his dad's playing, especially when he did the reunion.
Yeah,
and like his band he's got now, he goes out and does his dad's stuff, you know. But he still puts his own salt and pepper on it, which is great.
Oh, that's amazing. But I think your thumbprint is influenced so many young drummers. You know, well, gosh, since 1983. You know, you're always the first name on young drummers' lips, aren't you? Especially to the rock guys.
Wait a sec, it wasn't nice one, Cyril. You're having a laugh.
First name on my lips, then.
Who were you influenced by when you were?
You know, no one's ever asked me that before. Gosh. Do you know what? One of the first drummers I ever heard, well, not heard, but one of the first rock drummers I was into was Randy Castillo, the late Randy Castillo from Ozzy. I just loved his playing. Yourself, Phil Rudd.
Yeah.
That's more. I'm quite a simplistic play. You know, as you can see, I have a small kit.
Let's have a peek. What you got on that bass drum now? Is that an old Ludwig?
It's a 59 Gretsch round badge.
Oh, beautiful!
So
the only reason I thought it was a Luddy was because of the bass, the tom-tom holder on the bass drum.
Yeah,
that's a beautiful old kit. I love vintage drum. Beautiful.
Me too.
Yeah, that's lovely because you got like a nice, not diverse playing. You know, Randy was 2 bass drums, very fast hands, lovely fast hands, lovely feel. Hit the bejeez out the kit.
Yeah.
And then you got Phil. What's that in your pocket, Rudd? You know.
Yeah.
You know, he was quite he was like an ergonomic player, but he still drove it. You know,
had that swing somehow.
Yeah, and you know, I know he's been through a lot in his life and later life. You know, what with all that stuff that went on back in Oz with him. But it was great to see him come back into the band, and they you know, they've been hit with tragedy. Yeah, as we all get older, you know, there's always that, you know, that mortality thing hanging over you, and you know, when's the governor going to take me? But they've had a lot of bad luck, but that's some great influences, mate. You know.
Well, you know, hey, look, Nicko, I promised you I would take no more than 35-40 minutes of your time. That was an hour and a half ago. I
think it is the thing. You've asked me 4 questions. See, this is one of the things that there's a problem for me.
Nicko,
no biggie, but listen, I'm going to have to go because I've got 15 minutes to go. I didn't realise the time's just flown, mate.
Sorry. Nicko, thank you so much.
Matty, have you got any other questions you want to ask? Then forget it.
You've been an absolute gent, Nicko. Thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it.
My friend. Anytime. I look forward to meeting you in person, mate.
Hopefully so. Take care, mate. Bye-bye. See you, Nicko. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.